Snowpiercer tells the story of a world in which, due to an experiment, most life on Earth has been destroyed and the remaining human beings are now on a perpetually moving train known as the Snowpiercer. And I have to say that while the film certainly presents interesting themes and striking visuals, it doesn't manage to balance itself out properly, thereby leaving it a film that didn't manage to exact out its full potential. The film certainly presents an interesting and thought-provoking metaphor representing the very train as the world that we live in today, and the train is a micro version of Earth, expressing the very caste and social system that we have, and media influence, and how education and various different other things are expressed, and how they influence us, how they are so ingrained in our society in today's day and age. And the fact of the matter is how the lower class, the middle class, and the upper class interact, their various beliefs and visions of the other classes, how they are perceived, are extremely interestingly represented through this film. And moving from the back of the train essentially to the front of the train, from the lower class to the middle and finally to the upper, represents an extremely beautiful visual journey as you go along, to represent in such a quick and simple manner the striking differences in the lifestyles that upper, middle, and lower classes have. And I have to say that visually the film is certainly satisfying, because the visuals are such an essential component of this, let's say, strange and bizarre film, that they really are an integral part of it, and they really manage to strike you in more ways than one. In fact, in a particular action scene, the use of visuals manages to add to this essence of intensity, and the visuals in and of themselves really manage to tell this beautifully strange story that Snowpiercer is trying to express. The very story based on the belief that we all in society and around the world have our own preordained positions, and our position and our very role needs to be fulfilled in the very environment that we exist in, or whichever class essentially that we exist in. And while the film certainly expresses such a belief, I don't think necessarily that it should be accepted as fact, but the belief is interestingly put across through this, once again, metaphor of the train. Unfortunately though, the film after a point really beats you over the head with this metaphor over and over again, explaining things that are put across so subtly and simply, and having to explain things and repeat dialogue over and over again to really ensure that you've understood the message that you understood when you heard of it the very first time, or observed even the subtlest of details. And while the film certainly delves into such a metaphor and explains it over and over again through the course of this film, there are moments, especially towards the center of the film, wherein the very message or the prime purpose of what the film is trying to express is essentially forgotten. Rather, the film delves into the basic linear storyline that it was following, but unfortunately, there are moments within the film that have no relation to what the film was trying to say as a whole, thereby making it a tidbit confusing and, in fact, all over the place. And the film certainly does have this essence of bizarreness, of course, to express the mindlessness of humanity and some of humanity's actions, but at the same time, that bizarreness merely exists, and the film is almost weird at times because it thinks that it could get away with having strange moments that don't particularly relate to anything. Instead, they come across as jarring to witness in the grander scheme of things. The revolt aspect of this film is certainly fantastic to witness, and to wonder what such a revolt could mean in the grander scheme of things with relation to Earth is certainly thought-provoking. Furthermore, you are on such a journey with Curtis, who is of course portrayed brilliantly by Chris Evans, and the fact of the matter is, you are invested within this world, and within this world in and of itself, it warrants your interest, but unfortunately never does it manage to capture you on such a journey to really leave you enraptured. Rather, it leaves you satisfied, but never just enough. Snowpiercer is certainly a refreshing film from the aspect that it has a lot to say, but it loses itself, especially towards the middle, and kind of remembers that it had a message to deliver, so it decides to reintroduce it and force it to you at certain moments throughout the film, especially towards the end. At the same time though, from the acting perspective, or even the score, or even the visuals of the film, it manages to strike you and present enough to you to realize that this film is certainly worth watching. I'm going to give Snowpiercer a yes.